Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can tell, I'm not in my usual spot and I have taken things outdoors for multiple reasons. One, the weather is fantastic and I wanted to enjoy and bask in that while I can. Secondly, my house is a freaking mess. I don't mean like, oh, I have clothes everywhere and dishes and blah blah blah. I mean like the floor is literally torn off of my house. And I will insert a clip of that here. So I'm actually quite proud of myself for this month. For the month of March, I read 5 books. 5 books and I DNF'd one, so I think that's pretty impressive. I thought that March was going to be a super busy month for me and I wasn't going to get any reading done. And it was a busy month for me, but I did manage to squeeze in some reading, so I'm really happy about that. So the first book that I read in the month of March was Hired by Zoe Castile, and Zoe Castile is like an alternate name, or like, is it pseudonym? No, alternate name. I don't know what it's called, but it's basically an alter name for Zoraida Cordova, who is the author of the Brooklyn Bruja series. That's her YA series, and Zoe Castile is the name that she uses for her adult romance series. So Hired follows a young girl named Faith who is working on her mom's campaign because her mom is running for mayor of New Orleans. So she's like helping her out and stuff, and immediately you know that that relationship there is really tense. You get the sense that Faith is kind of underappreciated by her mom and others around her. She meets Aiden in a bar, and there's like instant attraction between the two of them. And Aiden's story is that he is actually a male escort, and he was there in New Orleans with a client, but she had to go off for an emergency involving her husband. So Aiden's kind of left in New Orleans by himself. I found the story okay overall. Some of my favorite parts were focused on Aiden and his backstory. His relationship with his mother was really beautiful in my opinion. It's like one of my favorite aspects of the book. I believe Aiden's from Colombia. I want to say he's from Colombia. And so his culture just, I feel like, really brought a certain richness and unique quality to the story. I want to say Faith is like, her dad is white and her mom is black, I think. I could be wrong, but I think there's something also involving her and representation from Faith, which was really nice. I found that really added something special to the story, but I just found that I was spending too much time in the story feeling bored. A perfect example of this is at the beginning, as like a first date between the two of them. Faith takes him to the swamp slash summer camp that she went to, and he basically almost gets eaten by an alligator, and that scenario in and of itself is really funny and comical, but when you read it, it just takes so long and the scene feels really prolonged that it just falls really flat, and I got bored of it. The pacing was a little off for me, like I said, slow and boring. The first 2/3 of the book went like that, which was unfortunate. But some of the best stuff was towards the end, the last like third probably. Some of my favorite stuff is where the conflict reaches its peak and like Faith finds out exactly what Aiden's job is, and that obviously has some confliction because Faith is the daughter of someone running for mayor, so like that, scandals, right? I gave the book 3 out of 5 stars, which is still a pretty decent rating. Like I said, I enjoyed it. I just found that I was getting bored at some areas. I think just for the representation alone, I would be interested in reading the other books that Zoe Castile slash Zoraida Cordova has in this series, and to see if that rep extends in her other books. One thing they don't tell you about wrap-ups, a bitch gets thirsty. After I read Hired, I went ahead and picked up Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Leon. The book had a lot of buzz around BookTube, and I think people are watching me. This book had a lot of buzz on BookTube, mainly for the fact that it was an Asian-inspired fantasy and that the main love interest in this story was a queer relationship, which for me, that's all I needed to know. I also knew that there were trigger warnings for sexual assault, sexual violence, and things like that. So if you're at all like sensitive to those things, definitely this is not the book for you. I just knew king took concubines, and then the concubines fall in love with each other. I don't want to go too much into a review of this because I feel like that would make this video 1,000 times longer, but I am going to go ahead and leave Rachel Marie's video from Rachel Marie Book Junkie. She did a whole discussion on this book, and her video pretty much nails all of my sentiments for this book. And we also gave it the same rating, 4 out of 5 stars. I felt like the first like huge portion of this book really just has a way of creating suspense because things don't happen. It is a bit of a slower start book, and you do spend a lot of time like training or getting to know the world or getting to know how things are in the palace and learning the rules of it all. I feel like it does a good job of creating that suspense, and we're with the main character with like, how long can we prolong this event that we know is inevitable? And you felt this sense of anxiety throughout the entire time that you're reading it. I felt it for sure. And just the discussions of sexual violence, like, you had characters that like, just seeing the aftermath of them being with the king was so heartbreaking. And then the youngest of the group, she's the youngest of all of the girls there, and she gets called and she's so nervous to go, and then even after she comes back for the first night with the king, she's so like, I don't know how to describe it, but because the book totally describes it really well, but like, it's so heartbreaking to see her fear morphs into this love that she thinks she has for the king. And it was so heartbreaking to read and to see that happen to someone that you like meet at the start and are thinking like, this is such a sweet person. However, you get to like the last 150 pages and I felt like she's a very complex and emotional character, which I loved. And then you get to the last 150 pages and I just felt like she was overshadowed. Like, Ren, which is the love interest in this book, I felt like Ren took the front driver's seat in this book, and the reader and Lee took a back seat. Like, not even a back seat. We took the 4th row seat in the huge ass SUV, and I felt totally disconnected in the last 150 pages. Like, I didn't really understand Ren's storyline. I didn't really understand what that meant. I just didn't understand it. And then at the end of the book, Lee reads the word that's in her locket, and I'm like, that's it? Like, it just felt, I was confused at the last 150 pages. I felt like our main character wasn't active anymore, and she was just like watching as everyone else did things. I felt like our main character wasn't the main character anymore. I felt like Ren was the main character, and we just took a back seat. And then I felt like it was disappointing. The ending, you reach that huge reveal of the word in the locket, and it was just disappointing. I know it sounds like I didn't like the book, but I still gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like the world building was really good. Lee, for the most part, was a really good character. I loved the romance between Lee and Ren. I thought it was beautiful and really well done. It's just the last bit of pages that were so disappointing to me. The next book that I read was Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is an adult contemporary romance. I buddy read this with one of my best friends, Sylvia. If her profile is not set to private, I'll leave her link down below. You guys should definitely check her out. I met her many years ago on Twitter, and then we met IRL, and we've been best friends ever since. And Birthday Girl is essentially a story about oh god. So Birthday Girl is basically about this girl falling in love with her boyfriend's dad. We don't have daddy issues, excuse me. It's a steamy and hot romance. It was cringy at times, but I mean, what romance isn't cringy? I have an age kink, so I'm just putting that out there. I really liked their relationship. I thought it developed. I mean, it's really weird when you think about it. Like, the way that the relationship developed, he was really there for her. Like, the things they talk about, they had a lot of things in common. Um, Her childhood really forced her to grow up really quickly, which, as someone who is dating someone that's older than me, I feel like I can relate to that, where, there are certain circumstances that you go through when you're younger that force you to grow up a lot faster than most people. And so you find that you can't connect with other people your age, or that, especially when you're trying to look for an intimate partner, like, some people just, like, they just can't get on your level because they haven't gone through the things that you have, or they haven't gone through a trauma that has forced them to grow up and to see the world in a certain way. So you definitely get that sense from these two characters that they have both been through some really traumatizing and life-changing things, and so seeing them connect on that level was really nice. The steamy scenes were extra, extra, extra steamy. It did take a long time to get there. If you're not really into, like, slow burn romances, then you're not gonna like this one, because it honestly felt really, really slow. I remember messaging Sylvia partway through and just being like, so when are they gonna do stuff? But I will say, normally I don't like a slow burn romance, but I liked it in this one. I think that seeing their relationship develop really kind of saved it for me. Otherwise, I would have just been bored. Both of them kind of constantly went back and forth. Like, one minute he's like, yes, let's be together, and then in the next, like, 2 pages later, he's like, no, we can't be together. I freaking hate when romance books do that, where this whole back and forth of we can be together, but we can't be together. It literally drives me fucking bonkers. I hate it. But in this one, I mean, I still hated it in this one, don't get me wrong, but there's, like, a good reason why they go back and forth, obviously. Like, the age difference is a huge thing. The fact that I mean, by the time they get together, she's not with his son anymore, but, like, that's still like, oh, hey, this is my ex-girlfriend, she's not my stepmom. It's a little weird. That's why they go back and forth a lot. And then she goes back and forth because she's not really sure if he's committed to her, and, like, I don't know, it just goes back and forth way too much, though. I feel like there are valid reasons why they go back and forth, but it happened way too many times that it was kind of taking me out of the story and really annoying me. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. So did Sylvia. We both really enjoyed it. But for me, I think that part really kind of took my enjoyment out of it. And the fact that it was such a slow burn, like, it was good, but also, like, super fucking slow in the tension. Okay, maybe I'm a fan of slow burns now. Maybe. So after I read that, I went and picked up, on a whim, mind you, because I was not planning on reading this book this month, or at all, really. This author gets a lot of hype, and I'm the type of person that doesn't like to read books that have too much hype behind them, because I feel like it makes me raise my expectations a lot, and then I end up being disappointed. So if I am interested in reading a book that's really hyped, I usually like to wait a couple months to let the hype die down, and then I'll go into it with my, like, expectations kind of set in the middle. This was the exception. I had heard way too many people talking about this, and then I saw a couple of my close friends reading it and talking about it on Twitter. And then I saw Haley from Haley and Bookland's video where she says the audiobook changed her life. And I was like, you know what? I need a new audiobook anyway. I'm just gonna go for it. Yep. I read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book destroyed me. It had me, the last, like, hour had me crying on the bus on my way home. When I reached the end of this book, I literally sat there and I stared at the book and I was like, how? How did Taylor Jenkins Reid do this? She has found a way, like, I get that's a writer's job to make you, like, feel for the characters even if they are fictional, but she literally made me sad that this band didn't exist. I definitely think listening to the audiobook is the way to go for this. I am planning a reread where I read it physically to see if that changes my experience with it. The book was just phenomenal. Like, I'll get chills talking about it, but the characters were so dynamic and complex. Daisy Jones is like awful but great. Like, she has her flaws, and her flaws are like huge flaws, but she's also just a really, like, deep down she's a good person, and she doesn't want to ruin the band or the relationship between Billy and his wife. Like, she's just so, I didn't even say what the book's about. If you don't know, Daisy Jones and the Six is a story that follows the rise and fame of Daisy Jones, the singer-songwriter, and this band, the Six. And they get to a point where the two timelines like meet, and they produce music together, and it was just so good because it's like about I mean, yeah, it's about them as a band, but ultimately it's about the characters, and it's about their relationships with each other, and it was just so good. And it's told in an interview style. It's about music, and it's about love, and it's about drugs and drug addiction, and the different types of addiction, and it's about truth, and it's about whose version of truth, and um, it's about how truth varies by who's telling it and who's listening to it, and it gives me chills thinking about it. But it was so well done because yes, it's about those, like, about the discussion of truth, and it's about addiction and different types of addiction, and it's done in such a way that it feels fun and heartbreaking to read about. And it was just so good. Like, I have nothing more to say other than it was just so good. Obviously, if you can tell, I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. And I'm, like I said, I'm not one to read books when they're so hyped up like that, because I just think sometimes people hype them up too much and then you get disappointed. But I really do feel like this is worth the hype. Like, it is actually a really, really good book. I feel like a lot of people can read this and get something from it, and get something different from it too. Like, what I get from this story maybe is not the same thing that someone else will get from the story reading it. So it's very dynamic in that way, and I really, really enjoyed that. Listen, all I'm saying is, us in the booktube community need to come together and form a band and just do a rendition of Honeycomb, please. Please. Can we make this happen, booktube? So after I read Daisy Jones and the Six, I tried to participate in Buzzwordathon and epically failed. But one of the books that I was going to read for Buzzwordathon was Where Sea Meets Sky by Karina Halley. I got 20 pages into this before I DNF'd it. That has never happened to me before. Usually, I mean, I have DNF'd books before, but usually if I DNF a book, I will have at least reached 100 pages to 150 pages into it before I decide to put it down. I couldn't even get through that for this. I got to 20 pages and I said, I'm done. We start off with this guy, and he's immediately talking about sex, and he's going off about how much he wants to fuck this girl, and she's so beautiful, her ass and her tits. Like, he's going off about this, and then the girl is like, yo, what up? And they're like, he's like, let's bang, and then she's like, okay, and then they finally bang, and like, all of this is happening within like the first 20 to like 30 pages, and you don't care about them, you don't care about the situation, you don't care that they're fucking, you don't care about any of it. And I'm like, why would you start the book this way? That's such a terrible way to start the book. And maybe if I cared about these characters, I'd care about this interaction, but I don't. And even after they're done having sex, this main guy, Josh, I think his name is, still feels the need to talk about sex in his chapter. And I'm like, dude, do you talk about anything else other than sex? It was so annoying. It was ridiculous. The girl was so one-dimensional, in my opinion. Like, I couldn't. I just couldn't. And I was like, this is so weird and rare for me, because I just made a video, of romance recommendations video. I'll leave it linked down below. And I talk about Karina Halley and a lot of her books that I've read that I've loved. And I do still think she's a great author and has a lot of great books. This is not one of them. And after that epic failure, I decided to pick up another romance book. And maybe that was my mistake. Who knows? Ended up listening to the audiobook for Where Good Girls Go to Die. I forgot the author's name already, but I'll have it on the screen somewhere. And I will say it started better than Karina Halley's book. So, I mean, that's an improvement. And I actually made it all the way to the end. So, I guess that's an improvement. But, like, it wasn't much better. And I don't even know where to start. I gave it 2 stars. Can I start there? I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. It had potential. Like, there's this girl, this main character, that starts off and she's working at a strip club, and she runs into her brother and his best friend because it's the best friend's bachelor party because he's getting married. And oh, by the way, our main character and her brother's best friend used to be an item, and then shit happens and they're still in love with each other, right? Potential. This sounds really good. Her brother just like sees her there stripping, and this is her job, this is what she's doing. She's getting paid to do this. It's not like she's there against her will. And he's like, pack up your shit, we're going home. And she's like, okay. And then she gets home and she's like, yeah, I'm just like lying around your house and doing nothing. And I'm like, you could, like, why did you leave your job? You did this, that was your job, why would you just leave? And then there's like this implication that she left to get away from the best friend because he hurt her, and so she ends up working this job. But like, it never goes into like why she chose that job, and then why she so readily left the job. I mean, she seemed like she was doing okay to me, so I don't understand why she felt that need to do that. Like, Big Brother comes in and all of a sudden she needs to drop whatever she's doing to go back with him, which seemed really stupid. Macho man best friend just keeps telling her, like, you need to go home, you shouldn't be drinking, and she just goes along with all of it. She's like, okay, sure, I'm gonna stop drinking, okay, sure, I'm gonna go home now. Oh, Big Brother this, and people telling me what to do this. Like, she doesn't feel like an independent person whatsoever. There was a part in the book that actually made me like roll my eyes and laugh, and I almost just like stopped because the brother was like, why don't you go out and get a job? She literally had a job and you told her to pack her shit up and go home. Here for this. I was not here for the brother. I think he's stupid and controlling, and all of the men in this book were controlling, and the females would like show an inkling of like reservation and be like, no, I'm my own person, but then eventually would concede and do whatever the males were telling them to do. And it was so annoying and so stupid. I will say the steamy scenes were very steamy. And can we get off of this bandwagon of like, whenever males are having like a rough day or like something big happened and they're like, I can't do this right now, get away from me, and they're like, the women in their lives are like, no, just fuck me, everything will be okay. I just don't understand. It's okay to get emotional, men, okay? It's okay to cry, and it's okay to talk about your feelings instead of just fucking shit out and being like, you're not a person to me in this moment because I need you to not be a person so I can feel okay about fucking you this way. It's so stupid, it's so demeaning, and I actually really hate it. This book was atrocious in that way, and it happened once or twice in the book, and I freaking hated it. So, oh, and in the end, the brother knew about these two all along, so all of that shit for nothing. 2 out of 5 stars. I can't even remember why I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I should have just given it 1, but you know, it's fine. Okay. And those were all of the books that I read in the month of March. So, some hits and some misses. Clearly, my Daisy Jones book was a hit. The best thing I read all month, maybe all year, I don't know. But, yeah. I'm looking forward to April, though. I have a lot of good picks. And I don't do TBR videos because I don't like TBR videos, but I'm really, really excited. And I just got Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy, I think is the last name. I just got their book in the mail, and I'm so excited. I'm resisting the urge to start it now, but I think I'm just gonna have to because I've been waiting for this book for months, and now it's here, and I'm so excited. So that's probably going to be my first read of April, if you're at all curious what I'm reading in April. And thank you guys so much for watching this video, and thanks for enjoying the sun with me today. I'm really happy that I got outside. Thanks for enjoying the sun with me. super appreciate you. Please thumbs up this video because I sat on my back lawn and made a fool of myself to all of my neighbors while I talked about books. Thanks. Please subscribe, thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.